예, 감사합니다.
Thank you. So normally we attend presentations and discussion sessions revolved around exchanging questions on the presentations delivered. But then today we are going to do it differently this time because there are new technologies emerging, and I think it is worthwhile for having experts to talk about new technologies. So we are going to talk about different topics during the discussion session. And each different topics will be addressed by each different discussant. So I would like to invite 5 discussants. We have Baek Jong-hyuk, Senior Research Fellow from the Korea Atomic Energy Research Institute. Commissioner Baek Jong-hyuk is a top expert in small modular reactors and nuclear fuel cycle research and development and nuclear policy. And he also served as a member of the Nuclear Energy Utilization Development Committee under the Atomic Energy Promotion Commission. And the next discussant is Kim Boo-gi, a professor of the School of Mechanical Engineering at Gyeongsang National University. He was a director of the Korea Research Institute of Ships and Ocean Engineering, and also member of a Presidential Committee on Carbon Neutrality 2050, and also chairman of the International Maritime Safety Corporation Center. And now he also is a member of Industry Academic Research Collaborations. And the next discussant is Bae Jung-chul, president of KAERI. As you know, KAERI really played the biggest role in developing shipbuilding industry in Korea. And as we have to carry out energy transition, all the equipment and also the parts need the new technologies which are from other countries. For example, we've built vessels, but what's inside is filled by technologies from abroad. But nowadays, his organization is developing technologies to make all the parts domestically manufactured and produced so that we can manufacture domestically produced vessels from tip to toe. And also, he is serving as the president of the Korea Maritime Equipment Research Institute. Next discussant is Jang Hae-ki, the EVP of Samsung Heavy Industries. Of course, SG, Samsung Hyundai, and also Hana Ocean are top 3 shipbuilding companies, right? The Samsung Heavy Industries are building numerous number of vessels. He joined the Samsung Heavy Industry in 1994 and also has since worked in the merchant ship technical sales team and also merchant ship basic design team. And now he is serving as the vice president, especially in engineering part. So maybe from China, the shipbuilding companies will probably try very hard to have him paying a lot of money. And the last discussant is Kim Yeon-tae, Executive Vice President of Korea Register. So in the past, either the MBGL and Lloyd were the companies that we are trying to catch up with. But I think Korea Register is the organization which played a very important role for taking the lead in the shipbuilding industry. And he joined the company in 1989 and coming under so many things. He is now serving as the head of the whole technology team. So all the technology newly developed in Korea are registered by a Korea Register. So Korea Register is definitely taking the lead in applying new technologies. So we have 5 renowned experts in this area. So from now on, I would like to just give one topic each for each expert. So there's no specific order set before. It is random order.
First of all, are you ready to share the screen? We have Mr. Baek from Korea Atomic Energy Research Institute. As Professor Lee mentioned during his presentation, in the future, the hottest topic or technology, eco-friendly technology, will be SMR. The cost parity should be reached and technological maturity will have to be there, so I would like to know the status of vessel SMR technology development and the end goal in this field. Thank you for giving me the chance. I'm Baek Jong-hyuk from KAERI. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee for inviting me and giving me the chance to talk. So please look at the image on the slide. In the middle, there is the mascot of KAERI on the vessel, on the deck. And below that, there is a nuclear reactor. Once a year, we make a calendar. That's the model or the image on the August page. From a couple of years ago, we started the development of SMR to be applied in the vessel, and we are currently leading this R&D project. And the budget is from the Ministry of Oceans and Fishery. Although this is in the research phase, but if we scale this up, and Professor Lee covered the KARDP program during his presentation. So the project milestone is 2026, including the offshore nuclear plants. The budget size is 2.6 trillion Korean won. And we are the competent authority for that project. And please look at the slide next page. We have covered the topic of carbon neutrality quite well. So there is IMO MEPC, which was held July last year. And again, UN held COP28 held last year in UAE. And all the things mentioned in those conferences are all kinds of same or similar. And they include nuclear power. By 2050, nuclear power generation will have to be tripled to achieve net zero by 2050. For that, the carbon generation and the offshore generation of carbon emission will have to be reduced. Then one of the options that we can have is to change the engine. So for the short term, you can use LNG, methanol, or ammonia. But if you look at for the long term, we foresee that nuclear power will have to be included. If you see the emission compared to fossil fuel, if we power using nuclear, then this is the data from the IAEA 2 years ago. It is 1/68th lower. So CO2 emission is small. So this is the number is quite small, even if you compare it to the atmospheric CO2 generation. In Europe, they are imposing carbon tax, cross-boundary carbon tax. So the countries will have to reduce the carbon dioxide emission. For that, in order to apply nuclear power to the offshore or vessel, then we need to take an action. and it is high time that we took an action. As I work in the nuclear field and I have gathered some information in the ocean, I thought that the two fields are quite not related, not connected well. So I think cooperation between the ocean field and nuclear field will have to be there. The goal for the two fields is enhancing the safety and get the public acceptance. And in order to compete in the market, the price should be lowered. Price itself is not that important. In order to equip the nuclear reactor in the vessel, we need to see the full cycle, starting from the power generation and installation. Then we'll have to use the nuclear fuel. If we install the nuclear reactor, then we can run it for 40 years. If we use the nuclear reactor in the vessel, then another problems will have to be solved. For example, the nuclear fuel issue, and the KAERI is preparing for that answer. In order to commercialize certain technology, the biggest hurdle or biggest challenge is the regulation. For the regulation in the nuclear field or in atomic fields is to prevent serious incidents. Then for that, we can opt for the nuclear reactor that is free from such accident, and one of that technology is SMR. And the safety of the SMR is 3 times or 5 times higher than the conventional reactor. Then another technology should be developed to prevent the vessel accident itself. I guess it was in March this year. NEMO, as I wrote in the slide, is Nuclear Energy Organization, Maritime Organization, was established this year. And Korea, HD Hyundai joined the membership. So to commercialize the atomic power at sea, actually IMO published SOLAS program in 1981. It is Human Rights Convention at sea. It only covers the naval part, but it should be applied to the commercial side as well. So the engineers will have to increase the technical maturity, but for safety and other issues, I think international collaboration should take place. Thank you.
얼마 전에
Thank you. There was the big news that Korea exported a nuclear power plant to Czech Republic. And there was some issues around whether it was eligible or not. Of course, Japan has a license, of course, but we have done stability assessment, and also we have tested a lot. So I think that news just demonstrates that Korea's nuclear power plant is really taking the lead. And new development of the SMR, it seems like we are going to really pave the way forward. So personally, my expectation is very high for renewable energy. So if you continuously pay attention to this, then I think definitely we'll be able to achieve it. And also Professor Peck and also Park. And to really save time, please summarize your remarks within 3 minutes. My second question goes to Bae Jung-chul, President of KAERI. So, as I previously mentioned, so Korea is taking the lead in developing eco-friendly ship, but the very core technologies are there to fill inside, but the very core equipment and also parts are all different for different energy sources and different fuels. And also it is very complicated to really secure stability. And also once development is done, the feasibility test needs to be also followed. So if we can achieve all that perfectly, then we'll be able to continuously take the lead, right? So my question is this. So the for the core parts and core technologies which go inside eco-friendly ship, what's the current status of the development, and what's the competitiveness that currently we are having, and what will be the way forward? Thank you. Thank you for your question. I think you just rightly pinpointed the shortfalls that we are having, and we all feel responsible for making further efforts that. And the theme of this shipbuilding session is blue ocean mobility and digital solutions. Another technology that goes inside the eco-friendly ship is the 2Ds, decarbonization and digitalization. So as I mentioned, we are receiving the biggest orders for eco-friendly ships. But unfortunately, the technology to fill inside, unfortunately, it is not domestically supplied. So if that is the case, are we not really ready for it? It is not true. Partially, we are developing technologies, and also we are testing inland, and also we have done related certification. However, when it comes to sale record, there are many cases where we cannot really put our technologies inside because of a lack of experiences. So in order to really install our technology onto a vessel, the ship owner decide to have our own technology and parts equipment into that vessel. So such issue repeats itself. So although the vessel is small, so to 17,000 tons of the bulk carrier will be delivered with the support from the central government. And I heard this. For now, LNG fuel will be used, and OCCS will be on board in line with the net zero policy. So the equipment, we should go for not directly competing with the foreign companies, but this is one of the area where we can hold upper hand. OCCS is applied to a vessel called the Mongola, so feasibility is underway. So this is a flagship feasibility project. To make this happen, HMM also helped us, and also KAERI and also domestic companies are all coming together for feasibility tests. So for this kind of new equipment, we have to have it for the first time for feasibility tests. And feasibility test is what we need most. It is not that we do not have technologies. In order to do the feasibility test, sorry, I speak too fast, maybe due to time constraint. The current status of the equipment industry is mainly revolving around small and medium-sized companies. So in the future, we have to change our strategy. So what I would like to tell you is that we have to have a vertical cluster when it comes to fuel supply equipment. That simple equipment even needs more than 20, 30 parts. So middle-sized company needs to take the lead, and also the smaller company needs to join the effort so that we can create a kind of vertical cluster. So by collaborating with the leading company, we have to continuously enhance our competitiveness. So in this way, for example, company like Alfa Laval, we would be an example. But that company is never big. So we have to come together, right, regardless of the size of the companies. Then we will, for example, distribute sector by sector for each different company. Then we will be able to really enhance our global competitiveness. So all I'm saying is that mutual collaboration inside industry is very important, and maybe we need to modularize cooperation network so that we can build and strengthen our competitiveness at a global level. And receiving orders is going really well. So for the next 10 to 20 years, of course, we could relocate manufacturing base to other countries. So although the frame is built by other countries, we need to fill that ship and vessels with the technologies and also parts domestically produced and also developed. So let's be aware of this and let's make efforts together. Thank you so much. My expectation is all the high for what you have said. As you said, the future prospect of the domestic technologies is very bright, and delivering the vessel was a problem because we could not really receive the parts from abroad on time. But this cannot be solely done by a single company. So that's why all the companies, academia, and also relevant organizations need to come together so that we can successfully develop core technologies. So I admire that. I would like to really strongly suggest that.
Let's move on to the third panelist. This question goes to Kim Yeon-tae from KR. So eco-friendly ship and carbon-free vessel. Many people ask me these questions. What kind of fuel should our company use? IMO is strengthening their regulations on environment, but the shipping companies will have to consider which fuel they're going to use. So against this backdrop, I would like to hear from Mr. Kim. I guess you will know a lot of technology and information. So related to carbon neutrality, which fuel do you think will be sustainable? Which is the fuel of the future? It won't be easy to answer, but please share your insights. Thank you. You have mentioned an important point and asked me a very difficult question to answer. Greenhouse gas emission will have to be solved by fuel. We have many experts from the shipping field. In case of the shipbuilding companies, they do system design accordingly, and they mention that ship design can solve all, but the end user, the shipping companies, face a lot of challenges in this field. Let's say a shipping company placed an order for a certain fuel-based ship, but let's say the competitiveness of the fuel dropped after a certain year, then the shipping company will suffer loss. If a customer, you will have to consider customer concerns. Whenever I receive this question, you may wish me to give you one answer to that question, but it is difficult to do so. As we've heard from the presentation, we have coal-based, petroleum oil-based, gas, and other net zero fuels for the vessel. And from another perspective, we can use multiple fuel at the same time. So it's a transition from the monofuel era to the multiple fuel era. If you see the Clarkson Research data or MMMCA data, they mentioned that by 2050, LNG, methanol, ammonia will be used and take the market while sharing the similar share in the market. So many different fuels will be used at the same time. 2 years ago, in 2022 and 23, we have done an economic feasibility study on the alternative fuel sources. But depending on the vessel size and vessel type, the cost differed for the same fuel. So by 2050, I guess various fuels will be used at the same time, not a single fuel. And I would like to add on to that. When KR did in the feasibility study, that was as of 2023. So that was for the vessel delivered in 2023. And we changed the data point, and we have applied 2026 vessel, and the data deferred because the carbon tax of 2020s and carbon tax of 2030 deferred. So that's the reason why the result for 2020 and 2030 deferred. So the answer will change as time goes by. So flexibility in the fuel is another important thing that we need to take into consideration. Fuel change-ready design should be applied in the engine side and the propulsion system. While choosing the propulsion system, the system itself should be flexible for the conversion from one fuel source to another fuel source. And lastly, I would like to share the results of the KR feasibility study for a small fishing vessel. As there is a stronger regulations on the petroleum oil, they are using biofuel. The performance will be different. For example, 20% or 30% impact. So the performance will be different, and the carbon tax of 25 years were applied. So for small vessel, the biofuel or oil will be used, and if we compare methanol and ammonia vessels, LNG ranked number 1, ammonia number 2, and methanol number 3. So at the time I had a question why Maersk chose methanol. They will consider a lot of different factors. But at the time, I think LNG had some methane slip issue, and it entailed a lot of concern. So that's why they opted for methane. So to give you the conclusion, if we make a wild guess on which will be the future fuel, then our attempts will be meaningless. For a certain type of vessel, we need to do an academic feasibility study for each different vessel, and the fuel availability will have to be studied as well. Then each vessel can make a decision on which fuel to use. Optimal alternative fuel will have to be used. Thank you for your comments. So you gave an answer to the questions that I thought a lot, but you postponed to give the single answer to this question. But many people think that if we change the fuel source of the vessel, then you may think that we can change the ship design. But the change in the fuel source will lead to fuel design, and then that will lead to port design and logistics chain, and the cost and the competitiveness. All of these will change and create a ripple effect. For example, compared to diesel vessel, let's say we build an LNG vessel. So when we consider the turnaround, then the cost is around 2.0 times. And ammonia is 5.0. If we calculate the payback, if we build one vessel and we have to use it for 30 years, but if we consider the fuel conversion, then we cannot have a turnaround in just 30 years. So all of these factors will have to be considered. So one fortunate factor is that the technology side, we have it here in Korea, but another important thing is business feasibility. So the economic factors is another player. Thank you for your comments.
질문을 드리겠는데요.
And my fourth question goes to Jang Hae-ki, EVP of Samsung Heavy Industries. I think it is similar to carbon-free fuel story. So as we go to the direction of net zero and also carbon-free fuels, some people say that why not LNG just? But as is mentioned, it can reduce carbon emissions, but there are issues around the greenhouse gas emissions. Then again, it leads to then use of the hydrogen and also ammonia. So technology about using all these are there, and the development for engine and all the systems are already achieved. So by the end of 2026 or 2027, ammonia vessels will be delivered. And Samsung Heavy Industries are developing technologies and also doing feasibility tests. So my question for you is, for future fuels and developing vessels for that, technological development for ammonia hydrogen vessels, I would like to know how much we have come for that and what considerations are there for us to develop such vessels. Thank you. So I think just to say that I'm representing the opinions of the shipbuilding companies. I think other shipbuilding companies might have different opinions to mine. So I will just stick to personal opinion. There was a GasTech 2024 conference held. It was held in Singapore before. And last week, the high expectations were there for technological development and also consultation around hydrogen and also ammonia. And we opened the box, and in the GasTech, it seemed that many people just paid attention to LNG again. And nonetheless, ammonia and hydrogen are important because there's a carbon tax to be imposed in the EU, and also there's a system called the Fuel EU, meaning that you will have to pay for a penalty. And also from 2035, a carbon tax will be imposed according to this Fuel EU. And there's a system called pooling. So although you have many fleets, if you can make one single vessel perfectly carbon-free, then other vessels can be partially free from the carbon emissions. So once we have, for example, one ammonia vessel, then we can save 9 LNG vessels from carbon tax. So even for this pooling system, we have to have at least one ammonia or hydrogen vessel. So in this sense, I think ammonia vessel has to be following after LNG vessel. So ammonia carrier, ammonia powered vessels are our target. And so lots of orders are being placed for such vessels, but there are no rules or regulations for ammonia powered vessels. And not only that, many people are feeling not comfortable towards this ammonia vessels because it is toxic. And once we verify its safety, then we'll be able to receive more orders. And we are currently, and we have a completed test facility in real scale. For example, bunkering system and a supplying system and also venting system to verify safety of ammonia in line with rules and also regulations. Once we successfully verify that, then we will be able to overcome emotional resistance against ammonia vessels. And ammonia carrier ship itself, it contains ammonia, which can be used as a fuel, and also it is a kind of a cargo. So I think ammonia powered vessel will come before than anything else, and we have a technology there. And we are also working on a container we are doing JDP to apply ammonia for their containers. But the development of technology is not fast enough. So ENG licensee, licensor, and also shipbuilding companies signed the MOU. So there we can accelerate the speed of development for ammonia carrier. And so engine is one pillar. And also there's what we call ammonia fuel cell. And fortunately, last Sunday, there is a US company called Amoji. For example, 1 megawatt for Turboport. They have attached the ammonia power pack onto that vessel. And in the US, they successfully tested its operation. So starting from small-sized vessel to the large-sized vessel, I think ammonia could be used as a fuel cell. And of course, in terms of capex, it is a bit burdensome. But when it comes to ammonia fuel cell, it uses hydrogen inside. It cracks ammonia inside. So hydrogen is used inside to generate electricity. And we have to scale up the capacity, reducing capex, and the research is actively underway on that. So ammonia-powered vessels, the development for it is actively underway. And one of the things announced by gas stack companies in the era of ammonia energy, there's a floating facility which uses blue ammonia. And 40% of ammonia production inland is done by KAERI technology. And if we can successfully apply to the floating vessel, then it will become very successful. And we are trying to achieve AIP by summer next year. So ammonia engine will be out in the 2026 ammonia fuel cell. Although it is small, its performance was successful. Because of the carbon tax, I think it might be able to stay as a small scale, but in order to save conventional energy, it will be used as one of a pooling method for shipbuilding companies. So design and technologies are there. And for hydrogen, so hydrogen proposal, I think not many people talk about it because there's a hydrogen mixed engine, but the active research is underway for hydrogen fuel cell. And I think the most important thing is to develop technology to make a storage to store hydrogen, right? The temperature should be below minus 253, and insulation technology is core technology inside. So there are, for example, C-type, small one, and also a big one, membrane type. And in the middle, there is a sphere type. And for less than 40K, the development is already done with the C-type, and our target is to do the feasibility test. And also for the membrane, we are thinking of having a ATK. And also for the membrane, we are going to also do the pilot feasibility test. And also, we are planning to have a 2K hydrogen carrier. Then for that, Samsung, Hyundai, and Hanwha need to come together by creating a storage to store storage. And also, we will build by 2028, and the feasibility test will be done after that. So in the long term, we have to develop technologies to store and also carry hydrogen. And a lot of things will be done for ammonia, which will be followed by development for technologies to store hydrogen. Thank you so much.
I think it was a difficult concept to explain because there are a lot of confidential by each company. And the reason why the ammonia technology is not still in the market is because the test cannot be open publicly. The test should be done within the dome and should secure at least 1.3 kilometers from the residential area. We have a dome in Ulsan, and KAERI and Kunsan has a testing facility. We have completed developing the ammonia engine to be tested, and we have the propulsion system, so that's okay. But after all, safety is the issue. If we apply ammonia propulsion system, then human operator cannot approach that, so the system will have to be remotely operated. And Samsung is leading ammonia hydrogen vessel, and we have high expectation on that as well. So I would like to add on one thing, so please give me 30 seconds. So we need to keep the time and finish by 6 o'clock, but every participant here are here with us until now. So I would like to give another chance for you to speak. So the final selection for the future fuel, you've mentioned my answer was not enough, so I'll go straightforwardly answer your question. As Mr. Chang mentioned, if we look at the trends, and as our feasibility study suggests, LNG is number one if we consider all the factors. And from economic side, LNG is the top choice. But currently, if we do the study now, it is LNG. But by the mid of 2030, then the carbon tax will increase. As Mr. Chang mentioned, by 2035, between 2040, then LNG will have to pay the penalty as well. So considering that all, then by mid-2035, I think KAERI will have to do another feasibility study, and by that time, ammonia will be ranked number one. So in short, before 2035, it will be LNG, and by 2035, it will be ammonia. So that's my personal view, and made a lot of assumptions while coming up with this answer. Thank you for your comments. And let me introduce the last speaker for today. Mr. Boo-ki Kim is the professor of Gyeongsang University. He studies LNG vessel. 90% of the vessel order is around LNG. As mentioned, Maersk opted for methane vessel and again changed its course to LNG vessel. Even though LNG can reduce CO2 emission, but there's methane slip. So the shipbuilding cost is quite cheaper than other methods, but if you consider all, including carbon tax, then the outcome of the cost will be similar. And if we consider the longer operation after 2035, we cannot discard the LNG vessels after that. And then one technology that we can think of is CCUS, carbon capture and storage. So Professor Kim, could you share the development status of the CCUS technology? And I think carbon capture is one thing, and storage, economic feasibility, and transportation is another field. So is there any move in this field as well? Nice to meet you all. I am Kim Boo-ki from Gyeongsang University. So on the question you asked, CCUS, so I can give you an answer to that right away. The supply chain of CCUS. First, when the carbon is emitted, then we can capture it, then we can transport it, and store offshore. So currently Korea, we have a gas field in the East Sea. It's around 15,000 tons. It's quite small. If we capture CO2 and transport it, if we are to capture the CO2 and transport, we will have to store it in the strata that restricted the oil overseas. And oil recovery or enhanced technology will have to be used. As a shipping professional, we focus on the transport part. Recently, Yeon-tae received an order of liquefied gas vessel. It's only 20K size, but the vessel scale will have to be increased to 40K and prepare the technology accordingly. The cargo handling system for liquefied CO2. So within the tank, we need to maintain the pressure of that liquefied CO2, or not, then there will be dry ice and will impact the cargo hold. So related to CCUS, the shipping industry will have to come up with measures to safely handle the liquefied CO2. In other words, as you well know, it is difficult to be number one in the world, but as the shipping industry of Korea stands at number one, but we are chased by China. We are facing a fierce competition from China because China learned how to be number one. 30 years ago, when I first started to study in the United States, there were many toys or consumer products that were made in China. But if you look at the EV or PV equipment, there are many things that are made in China. So Chinese people are learning on how to become number one. Display, semiconductors, every technology fields are facing fierce competition from China again. So for the wind power generation, China has wind turbine for 18 megawatt scale. They have substructure and the superstructure as well as turbine. For the EC area, we don't have the actual business case of the offshore wind, but China has the business case. For example, China has a 15 megawatt scale business case and SMR. Many people say that SMR commercialization, number one is China. So China has established that thorium power SMR power plant study within 3 years, and they are ready for the actual operation of that SMR plant. Even though we have some technological advancement in the atomic field, but I think we are lagging behind in SMR. You know, shipping industry, there are a lot of conservative people. If there is no business case, then they're not going to use it. So we need to prove the technology first. We are talking about LNG, and more efforts should be made. And we have one single wish in this field. Each shipping company has their own cargo hold, but we need to get the GTT certification and pay the technology license fee of around 10 billion Korean won. We have the KC1 and trying to establish KC2, but we face some problems here. So we need to have that cargo hold technology. China has the technology. If you look at China, they have NO96 membrane project, and they received order for Mark III. They have that manufacturing knowledge, but before they didn't have the technological knowledge. But now, as they are incorporating their technological data or information to their manufacturing side, in the fuel tank, certain technology is used. For example, that same technology can be applied to cargo hold. So we need to think of ways to utilize the similar technology and apply it to other places in order to reduce the investment costs. And in the future, I think hydrogen, SMR, and electricity will be the power of the future, and including battery. And that should be applied for the small vessel. And for the large vessel, we will have to apply the technology. We will have to electrify the vessels. And hydrogen. As mentioned, it will take some time, but eventually I think hydrogen is the way forward. This is the ad hoc version of the fuel, for example, methane, ammonia on board CCS. I think all of this technology, personally, I think it's ad hoc. If we mature the technology of the hydrogen, all of these technology will no longer exist. If there is requirements for a certain product, then it's good for us because we can develop the technology as the shipping company wants, then we can incorporate the design. That's good for Korea. But I think SMR technology is good for us as well. I am a person who is for SMR, but this can be a game changer. China has the SMR technology. They have applied this to the propulsion system, and the US has applied the SMR to the Navy vessel. There are many game changers. To sustainably operate the business, we'll have to get a lot of orders. So SMR propulsion ship, many people say that due to the slow steaming, in order to reduce the CO2 emission, then we need to decrease the speed of the vessel. And if we apply the SMR technology, we can run them at 30 knots. I'm not sure how many vessels will be used to replace the decreased speed, but that's one question that I have. But I think SMR can be a game changer in the maritime transport, so we should be prepared. So for future, hydrogen and electricity will stay for the longer term.
Thank you. So for a whole day, I would like to thank 6 presenters, and also I would like to 5 discussants for engaging with the discussion session. And also I would like to thank participants who are joining us online and also offline for staying with us till the very end. So our shipbuilding technologies are the very best in the world, and when we put our heads together, hands together, then we will continue to enjoy our leadership in the industry. I would like to thank you for paying attention. This brings an end to the session. Thank you so much.